Why do we so often find ourselves attracted to the very things that end up hurting us or leaving us feeling unfulfilled? It's as though a hidden force is guiding our choices, drawing us to certain people or situations that look promising on the surface but lead to disappointment, confusion, or heartbreak. You may have noticed this pattern in your relationships, your career path, or even your day-to-day decisions. You think this time it will be different, and yet you end up back in the same cycle, the same dynamic with a new face or a fresh scenario that somehow repeats old wounds. Welcome to the mysterious realm of anima blindness, a phenomenon Carl Jung explored to help us understand why we choose wrong and how we can finally choose right. Before we dive in, if you're new here, remember to subscribe to this channel. We explore the depths of psychology, unravel hidden motivations, and shed light on the unconscious influences that shape our lives. Today's topic is especially impactful because it uncovers one of the most common, but least understood reasons we remain stuck. We crave love, purpose, and authentic connection, yet something in our psyche keeps derailing us. This is where Jung's insight into the anima can truly transform how you see yourself and the people around you. The problem is that when we're anima blind, we project our inner ideal, often a romanticized image of beauty, wisdom, or soul-level intimacy, onto someone in the external world. We then expect that person to fulfill our deepest yearnings. But because this projection is largely unconscious, we're choosing from our blind spots. We mistake illusions for reality, and we cling to fantasies instead of seeing people for who they truly are. This blindness perpetuates a cycle of heartbreak, disappointment, and sometimes an endless search for the one. Jung introduced the anima as the inner feminine image in a man's psyche, with the animus being the inner masculine in a woman's. But the principle applies more broadly to any part of ourselves we haven't integrated. The anima stands for qualities of empathy, creativity, intuition, and receptivity, which, if left unrecognized, show up as potent projections onto others. When we remain in the dark about these projections, we keep making choices that don't serve our real needs. Let's explore why this happens and how we can awaken from the trance that keeps us locked in unfulfilling patterns. When Jung introduced the concept of the anima, he wasn't merely offering a quaint metaphor about our inner female side. He was pointing to a fundamental aspect of the psyche that influences how we relate to the external world and to ourselves. In everyday life, this might manifest as feeling an inexplicable pull toward a certain person who embodies qualities we feel we lack, or qualities we deeply admire. Perhaps you've experienced an instant infatuation with someone who seemed to glow with an otherworldly aura. You couldn't put your finger on it, but they felt like a missing piece of your soul. This is a classic case of the anima's allure, where the unconscious mind projects its most valued feminine aspects onto another, hoping to find completion in them. For women, a parallel dynamic might occur with the animus, but the principle remains the same. We're drawn to our unintegrated qualities in the form of another person. Imagine meeting someone at a social event who seems to have the answer to all your unspoken questions. Maybe they speak with confidence, have a captivating sense of humor, or mirror an artistic flair you wish you could express. The spark is immediate. You tell yourself, "This is what I've been missing my whole life." You dive into the connection head first, overlooking red flags in the rush of excitement. Over time, reality surfaces. The person you envisioned is not the person who truly exists. He or she has flaws, complexities, and even entirely different desires than you anticipated. You feel betrayed or let down, not realizing that you were essentially in love with your own disowned qualities rather than seeing the other person clearly. The heartbreak is real, but the dynamic is largely internal. The reason anima blindness leads us astray is that we're searching for completion outside ourselves. When these sought-after traits remain unconscious or unacknowledged within, we must encounter them in the external world. It's as if your unconscious is saying, "Pay attention to this essential part of you," by dangling it in front of your eyes, cloaked in the guise of romantic attraction or deep fascination. Yet the moment we become attached to a projection, we can't help but misread the reality of who or what we're pursuing. One of the biggest aha moments arises when you realize that the traits you find so magnetic may actually be an untapped aspect of your own psyche yearning to emerge. As you discover these invisible forces, you might also notice how they show up beyond romantic relationships. Anima blindness can influence everything from career decisions to friendships. For instance, you might repeatedly accept work opportunities that seem to promise creative expression only to feel stifled because you haven't integrated your inner creativity. Without consciously acknowledging your need for self-expression, you choose jobs based on a fleeting spark rather than solid alignment with your true capabilities and vision. This pattern leads to dissatisfaction or burnout, yet it persists until you bring the underlying dynamic into the light. You might be wondering, is this all about me chasing illusions? In a sense, yes. But there's another layer. Illusions aren't always negative. Sometimes illusions reflect a seed of potential that actually exists in you. It's just misplaced onto another person. That's why animus or anima integration is so powerful. Once you realize these qualities come from within, you can consciously develop them. For example, if you find yourself attracted to someone because they radiate empathy and warmth, it might be an invitation to cultivate greater empathy and warmth in your own life. In that sense, the other person is a mirror showing you a hidden piece of yourself, rather than the sole source of that quality. The projection, then, is a clue, a compass directing you toward what is dormant within. In one real-world scenario, a man might consistently fall for partners who seem spontaneous and free-spirited, overlooking how their lifestyle conflicts with his deeper need for structure and responsibility. Each time, the relationship flares up and then crashes, because he can't realistically sustain a life so radically different from his own cautious approach. Subconsciously, he's seeking the spontaneity he has repressed. Another scenario could involve a woman repeatedly entering mentorship roles with men who appear intellectually commanding, only to feel overshadowed and frustrated. She might be projecting her unacknowledged inner wisdom and intellectual power onto these men, not realizing that it's her own intellect she yearns to develop. In both cases, bringing these unconscious qualities into awareness can radically alter the dynamic. Suddenly, these people stop seeking something out there and begin to claim their spontaneous side or intellectual power from within. The concept of shadow work is closely related. Shadow work involves acknowledging the darker, hidden aspects of our psyche, whereas anima or animus work involves recognizing our unconscious gendered qualities, whether we're male, female, or identify differently. Together, shadow work and anima-animus integration support the broader process of individuation, Jung's term for becoming a whole, integrated self. Individuation is not about perfection. It's about unifying the conscious and unconscious, recognizing that our psyche is multifaceted and dynamic. Only by shining light on our blind spots can we break free from repetitive patterns and misdirected desires. Now, how do we put this into practice? The first step is recognition. Simply identifying that you might be projecting an ideal onto someone is a giant leap. You can do this by asking, what qualities do I admire or yearn for in this person, and are these qualities perhaps dormant inside me? This reflection alone can shift the dynamic from blind infatuation to conscious curiosity. You might begin to see subtle signs that you're attributing more power, kindness, or talent to someone than they actually possess, or conversely, that these qualities exist in you, waiting to be awakened. The second step is embracing discomfort. It can be jarring to realize you've been living through projections. There might even be grief as you accept that a cherished fantasy was, in part, self-created. But remember that illusions can serve a positive function. They help you identify your deepest yearnings. Instead of chastising yourself for choosing wrong, you can reinterpret those choices as a roadmap to self-understanding. Each disappointment is an invitation to reclaim a lost or neglected aspect of your psyche. A powerful metaphor for this process is to imagine each person you're drawn to as a living mirror. In this mirror, you see a reflection of qualities that belong to you, but because the mirror is external, you believe that the qualities belong to it. As long as you remain unaware of the mirror, you chase the reflection, never realizing you carry the essence within. Once you understand the function of this mirror, you can turn inward and cultivate those traits in your own life. The mirror then shifts from a source of painful illusions to a tool of self-discovery. A second metaphor might be to picture your psyche as a grand mansion with many rooms, some locked and hidden from view. When we meet someone who lights a fire in us, it's as if they hold the key to one of those locked rooms. We feel irresistibly drawn because we sense that behind their door lies something essential. Yet, if we assume they are the sole owner of that room, we never explore it ourselves. The real healing occurs when we realize we have the keys as well. The other person merely reminded us that the room exists. Once you open the door from within, you can fully inhabit that space, filling it with self-awareness rather than projection. One essential reflection point is to look back at your history of relationships or major decisions. Do you notice a recurring pattern in the type of person or opportunity that intrigues you? What specific qualities do you consistently admire or resent in them? Often, admiration and resentment can be two sides of the same coin. Both are powerful indicators of projection. If you notice, for example, that you always find yourself both fascinated and exasperated by people who are adventurous risk-takers, consider that your own relationship with spontaneity and risk might be incomplete. Your aha moment here is that you don't need to run away from these traits or cling to them in others. You need to integrate them consciously, choosing how and when to express them in your own life. Another reflection point is to ask yourself, what am I truly looking for when I feel that spark of attraction or excitement? Often the surface answer is companionship, romance, or success, but deeper inquiry may reveal that you're seeking to awaken a dormant sense of wonder, artistry, or leadership. Recognizing this helps you take responsibility for developing that quality, instead of relying on someone else to supply it for you. This shift from external seeking to internal nurturing is a monumental change, one that can liberate you from repeated letdowns. As you become more aware, you may notice a second wave of resistance, the ego's attempt to preserve the status quo. Part of you might resist the idea that your beloved illusions aren't purely about the person in front of you. There's a certain comfort in believing that your ideal match is out there, somewhere. Letting go of that myth can be scary because it places the work of fulfillment squarely in your hands. Yet with every step towards self-integration, you free yourself from illusions that were never sustainable. This leads to a more genuine connection with yourself and others, built on authenticity rather than fantasy. Consider a man who's always been drawn to women he describes as mysterious goddesses. He may romanticize them as magical beings who bring color into his otherwise mundane life. When these relationships dissolve, he's left feeling disenchanted and empty. Through introspection, he realizes that the magic and mystery he admires is actually his own creative impulse and deep spirituality. Instead of searching for a goddess to fulfill him, he starts exploring art, music, and meditation. He taps into that sense of wonder within. Over time, He no longer needs a mysterious goddess to spark his life. His creative spirit lights his path. Then, when he meets someone with complementary qualities, he can see them more accurately and appreciate them without unrealistic expectations. The same logic applies to a woman who only dates men she perceives as strong providers, overshadowing her own capacity for leadership and financial independence. While projection might initially make the relationship feel stable and secure, eventually resentment surfaces, or the man can't live up to the hyper-idealized role she's assigned him. Recognizing that strength is also within herself can guide her to build her own confidence and resources. In turn, her relationship choices become more balanced. She no longer needs a partner to be some towering pillar of security. She can stand on her own while appreciating genuine companionship. The question then becomes, how do we keep building on this self-awareness so that it doesn't fizzle out after one or two revelations? One practical technique involves journaling. Whenever you feel a strong attraction or aversion to someone, write down the qualities you perceive in them. Then ask yourself which of these qualities you already have or wish to cultivate. This act of putting pen to paper brings unconscious stirrings into conscious thought. Another approach is mindfulness. The moment you notice yourself idealizing or demonizing someone, pause. Reflect on whether you might be overlaying your own inner narrative onto that person. This pattern of pausing and reflecting can become second nature over time, reducing how often you invest in illusory perceptions. Therapy or counseling that incorporates Jungian principles can also be invaluable. A trained professional can help you spot these projections and guide you in reclaiming the projected qualities. Even if you're not in therapy, having honest conversations with close friends can be enlightening. Friends might gently point out when they see you repeating a pattern. Although it might sting at first, this feedback can be a blessing if you're open to self-exploration. Midway through this journey, you might feel like, I'm seeing all my illusions, but I still feel stuck. That's perfectly normal. Awakening from anima blindness doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, and it may involve layers of discovery, like peeling an onion. Each new awareness can lead to deeper revelations. The key is perseverance and compassion for yourself as you navigate the terrain of your psyche. Keep going. This work is some of the most transformative you can do because it creates a foundation for healthier relationships, purposeful career choices, and an overall sense of wholeness. If you're finding value in these insights so far, consider supporting this channel. Like this video, share it with someone who might benefit, or leave a comment about any insights you've gained. This helps build a community where we can delve deeper into psychology and support each other's growth. Now, let's take another step forward and apply these principles in practical, real-world ways, so that the wisdom you're uncovering moves beyond theory and into daily life. One practical application is creating a self-integration list. Each time you feel drawn to someone, note the specific traits that fascinate you. Next, plan small actions to cultivate these traits within yourself. If you admire someone's adventurous spirit, try activities that push you out of your comfort zone. Join a dance class, travel solo, or volunteer for a project you'd usually avoid. By actively developing these qualities, you gradually dissolve the need to project them onto others. This approach not only improves your self-esteem, but also refines the way you perceive potential partners or career paths. A second practical application is to practice compassionate detachment. When you're in the throes of new attraction, give yourself time before making life-changing decisions. Take a week or two to observe whether your admiration is grounded in reality or fueled by a potent projection. Focus on getting to know the person or opportunity for what it truly is. Ask clarifying questions. Look for consistent behavior. Try not to rush into labeling them as your soulmate or dream job, after just one exhilarating encounter. This pause allows your conscious mind to catch up to any unconscious fantasies that might be playing out in the background. Another powerful tool is guided imagery or active imagination, a Jungian technique where you allow images from your unconscious to arise spontaneously and interact with them in a meditative state. You might imagine meeting your anima or animus as a figure in a dreamlike landscape. Ask questions. What do you represent? Why are you showing up now? How can I honor your qualities within myself? This practice can yield surprising insights and help you develop a more personal relationship with your inner guiding forces. It's important to note that becoming aware of your anima projections doesn't mean you'll never experience attraction, love, or excitement again. On the contrary, integrating your anima can deepen your capacity to love because you're no longer blindly searching for something external to complete you. You approach relationships and choices with a more open heart, rooted in self-knowledge. That shift can be profoundly liberating. You're freer to enjoy who a person truly is rather than clinging to a fantasized version of them. When illusions do arise, you'll recognize them as signposts pointing you toward further self-integration instead of letting them run the show. One of the most transformative possibilities here is the realization that you already contain within you all the traits you idolize in others. You might not have developed them yet, but they're available for growth. This is both humbling and empowering. It means you don't need to rely on external people or circumstances to unlock your full potential. Their role is to spark awareness, but the real development takes place inside you. This shift from external seeking to internal cultivation can revolutionize the way you experience life, ultimately granting you a sense of wholeness that no external relationship or achievement can substitute. Looking back at your past relationships or decisions with this perspective can be enlightening. Instead of seeing them solely as failures or regrets, you can reinterpret them as chapters in your personal growth narrative. Each wrong choice may have been the perfect nudge toward reclaiming a piece of your psyche you had lost or buried. When you see the hidden purpose in these experiences, you free yourself from bitterness and blame, replacing them with gratitude for the lessons learned. At this point, you may have had a few aha moments. You might realize that your constant search for the perfect romantic partner or the flawless job was fueled by your own disowned qualities, your anima shining like a beacon through someone else's form. Recognizing this can feel bittersweet, but also exhilarating. No one can take away the inner resources you cultivate once you become conscious of them. This is what Jungian psychology calls individuation, the road to becoming an integrated, authentic self. It's a winding path, but every step offers a chance to reclaim your inner gold, the hidden gems of your psyche that you once scattered into the world as projections. To bring it all together, remember that anima blindness is not a life sentence. It's more like a temporary veil that lifts when you dare to look inward. Jung's brilliance was in showing us that unconscious forces aren't just random quirks. They're profound invitations to grow. We are each on a journey from unconsciousness to consciousness, from illusion to reality, and from fragmentation to wholeness. Your anima is part of that journey, a guide, a muse, and sometimes a trickster that draws your attention to what lies within. If you can courageously welcome its messages, you'll find yourself making choices that align with your true essence, forging relationships that honor who you are, and discovering a sense of fulfillment that transcends superficial ideals. Let's summarize. We began by exploring why we often choose wrongly, attracted to people or paths that leave us feeling disillusioned. Jung's concept of the anima shows us that we project our hidden, unclaimed qualities onto others, expecting them to fulfill what we haven't yet nurtured in ourselves. Recognizing this projection is the first giant step toward transformation. Rather than condemn yourself for repeating destructive patterns, you can see these patterns as guideposts directing you to integrate your deeper qualities. You don't have to escape your illusions so much as learn from them. If you want to apply this right now, consider looking at someone or something you're highly drawn to. Ask yourself, what spark am I perceiving here? Which qualities am I attributing to them that might be my own unused potential? Write it down. Reflect on how you can start developing those qualities independently. Then practice compassionate detachment the next time you feel swept away by a new fascination. Pause, observe, and see if you're dealing with a real, three-dimensional human being or a projection of your anima. Finally, you're not alone on this quest. Share your experiences in the comments or discuss them with people you trust. If you have friends who notice your patterns, invite their feedback. Building an aware community around you can support your ongoing process of self-integration. I encourage you to continue exploring Jung's work, whether through reading, therapy, or dedicated inner practices like active imagination. The more you connect with your unconscious, the more its wisdom becomes an ally rather than an obstacle. Now, as we wrap up, I want to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. Here, we delve into the unfolding layers of psychology, exploring the unseen dynamics that shape our everyday experiences. By joining this community, you'll be part of a collective journey toward greater self-awareness and more fulfilling choices. We often think of these deep psychological insights as academic or reserved for therapy, but the truth is they have the power to transform how we relate to everything and everyone around us. Your presence here matters, and we welcome your voice in the conversation. So ask yourself, will you keep searching for that perfect mirror in another person, or will you dare to unlock the rooms in your own psychic mansion? The choice is yours, and that in itself is freeing. You can become your own source of fulfillment, a creator of genuine relationships and an explorer of your own mystery. Let the journey of anima integration guide you to a deeper, truer version of yourself. The next time you feel that rush of attraction or that pang of disappointment, remember, you hold the keys. You always have. The question is whether you're ready to turn them in the lock and step fully into the wonder that awaits inside. If you are, then your anima blindness will be replaced by clear vision. And in that clarity, you'll discover a richer, more balanced way of living and loving. Thank you for being here, and I can't wait to hear about your breakthroughs and reflections in the comments. Until next time, take good care of yourself. And remember, the unconscious doesn't just hide your illusions, it also holds the treasures you've yet to claim.